Welcome to the Board Wrap-Up. I'm your host, Sean Anderson for Ponca City Public Schools. This is the show where we sit down with Superintendent Shelley Arrott and we go over the board meeting for the month, the Board of Education meeting, and Superintendent Shelley Arrott.
Hello.
Good
how
morning.
Are you?
Very well.
Great.
Board of Education meeting there. I mean, there's a kind of a template.
There is always.
For the meetings, and that's a good thing. And it always starts on a wonderful note with the Board of Education monthly presentations. And how did those go?
Well, of course, we love to recognize our employees and our volunteers. We have so many people that support Ponca City Public Schools, and I just want to say that we're blessed to live and work in a community that supports our district and is part of the team. But our certified employee of the month was Miss Julie Logan. She's been with us for several years. Many years, I should not say several, many years, as long as I've been here, so I know at least since 1995. She teaches second grade at Lincoln Elementary. She's a true asset to our district, so we were happy to honor her. Also, our support employee of the month was Miss Betty Jones. She is actually a custodian at East Middle School, but our head custodian has been out with some illness, and she has been stepping up to the plate, so we appreciate Betty. And then we have a friend of education from West Middle School. That's someone who's not our employee. Karen Hunt, in one day, every week, several times a month, she comes up and does whatever is necessary just to help out at West Middle School.
Wow.
And it's wonderful to have such great volunteers in our community for no pay. Just because they want to be there.
Just because they want to help out.
Super.
Well, student presentations immediately following the Board of Education presentations, and I understand you had some third graders.
We did.
At the meeting.
We had third graders from Garfield, and we started this a couple of years ago just to showcase some of our activities and some of our grade levels and some of the things we do in the classroom, and so our board members can have the opportunity to see it, and it's a way for our public to come in and see as well. So we had third grade music and art students, and they presented some work they had done when they were studying the Underground Railroad. And if you'll remember from your history lessons, the Underground Railroad was a network of people who helped or provided shelter to slaves who were escaping from the South. And we had our art teacher bring in some overlay drawings that the students had done with the students of quilts that were hung on clotheslines that have a significant meaning to the slaves that were escaping. Like one pattern might mean "Don't stop now," or another pattern might mean "Come on in and we have shelter, we have food." So that was really interesting. And then our music teacher had her students perform the Drinking Gourd song, which was a song that was very popular in those days, and it had significant meaning. They brought in glockenspiels and they played and they sang, and it was wonderful. Our teachers are Nicole Murray and Jackie Cole, both from Garfield. So it was a great presentation.
Very nice. Well, the superintendent's report and legislative update. There are a lot of bills on the list. Can you highlight a couple for us?
Sure. There are still over 100 common education bills alive, and don't worry, I'm not going to go over all 100 now. But I'm going to give you a couple of dates. April 11th, which actually is tomorrow, is the last day for bills to be heard in committee of the opposite house. So if it hasn't been heard in committee of the opposite house tomorrow, the bill is no longer alive. We'll know some more information. And then April 25th is the last day for a bill to be heard in the opposite house. Not the committee, either the House or the Senate. And then, of course, May 31st is the last day of session, unless we have a special session, which we had 2 or 3 last year. So there have been a couple of common education bills that have been signed into law by the governor, and one has to do with substitutes and the number of days that they can sub. Probably a lot of people don't know this, but if we have a substitute that does not have a bachelor's degree, they could only sub 90 days in any given school year. They have increased that amount to 135, so by 45 days, which gives schools some more flexibility because of the severe teacher shortage.
Right.
Then if a sub has a bachelor's degree or an expired or lapsed teaching certificate, they used to could sub 100 days in a school year. Now it's 145.
Okay.
If they have teaching certification, it's unlimited. And we do have contract subs that are, a lot of these contract subs are retired teachers who have teacher certification, and they work every single day for us. So
Wow.
really helps us out quite a bit.
Incredible.
So that was signed by the governor, and then another bill that was signed by the governor in school year 2021. We're going to start doing some training on recognition of dyslexia, professional development for our teachers, that kind of thing. Some other bills to note that haven't been signed by the governor that are still in committee or in the House is House Bill 1780, and this was the proposed $1,200 teacher raise,
Right.
originated in the House. The Senate has their own version of that bill. Their version is give the $1,250 per teacher to districts back into the formula, and then that can be used as needed in the formula. So we'll see how that plays out. Another bill that is in committee is 1781. It's House bill. It's where we can pay our student teachers
Yeah.
that are doing their 6-week or 8-week coursework in the classroom. And oftentimes, if we are short subs, and we are short subs every single day, we may put a student teacher in there, and before we could not pay them. If schools are in a bind and they have a teacher leave the district and there's a student teacher out there, we can actually put them in that classroom and compensate them where we couldn't before. And this is another bill that is stemming from the severe teacher shortage as well. Here's a big one, Senate Bill 441. We'll see how this plays out. It's the change in the calendar. And this all originated for schools that do a 4-day school week. And, there's a lot of studies out there on the effectiveness of the 4-day school week, but here's what we know. If we went to a 4-day school week, our students would not have supervision for one day of that week. They'd just be home alone. Or if they're with us, we know they get at least 2 hot meals. And plus they have the structure of the school day and additional learning time. But what has hurt districts that are on a 5-day week is losing teachers to districts who go a 4-day week, because that's more appealing. And we do not want to lose our teachers. And, in a large school, we won't go to a 4-day week. But we don't want to lose our teachers. So we just want to level the playing field. So the bill proposes, right now we have the flexibility to go 165 days or 1,080 hours of instruction. And we have been approved for both. You have to request permission to do the 1,080 hours. If this bill passes, schools will have to go 165 days or have the flexibility of the 1,080 hours. We have some schools that go the 1,080 hours, but their school day may be 7 hours, where ours is 6.5. So they have way fewer school days.
I see.
Okay, so that leads to a longer summer or shorter contract year for teachers. The districts that go 4 days a week, on average, go about 146 days of instructional time. Now, in the law, there's some provisions that if a district is a 4-day week and they are showing that there is a significant cost savings, or it is not hurting the effectiveness of their academics, they may continue. So, but they have to prove it, and it'll have to be under specific State Board of Education criteria. So we will see how that shakes out. There is also a House bill by Representative Dills, 1395. That's a big one to public schools. Is currently virtual public schools now do not have the same financial transparency and accreditation requirements as public schools do. They do not have the same expenses. They're not brick and mortar schools. They don't need to replace flooring. Now, they do have computers that need to be replaced, but so do public schools. And Public schools just want virtual charters to have the same accreditation and financial transparency standards
Right.
that we do.
Right.
And here's something that really hurts us with virtual charter schools. With public schools who go through the accreditation process, we have to have our teacher's certificate on file in the office. It's legal for them to be working for us. And we have a regional accreditation officer who comes out and checks everything that we do, makes sure we're following the rules, all schools, not just Ponca City schools.
Right.
Currently, we have to have a teacher's certificate on file, but virtual charters do not. So what that means is a certified teacher for us could actually quit tomorrow and leave because we would hold their certificate, but they don't need their certificate with a virtual charter. So basically, let's say there was a teacher, and I'm just going to pick a town. Let's say my hometown, Stigler. We have a teacher in Ponca City who wants to go to Stigler Public Schools. Well, we are not going to release that teacher's certificate. They're under contract with us until we find a suitable replacement.
Right.
Okay, they can't go to work at Stigler Public Schools if they don't have their certificate. But a teacher that wanted to go to a virtual charter could just leave us high and dry the next day and go, because virtual charter teachers don't have to have their certificate on file. So that's just one thing. Plus the financial transparency, and as you know, schools are heavily audited. So we're continuing to watch that. And probably there are many other bills, but I'm not going to highlight them all. So
Well, there have been some very frustrating legislative sessions in the past few years, especially. Do you find this legislative session a little more favorable for education? Is it a little less frustrating?
There's a different feel at the Capitol. There doesn't seem to be more issues with party issues, you know. It seems like they're working together,
coming together
more
a little
favorably.
bit.
And I know that our local legislators, Senator Bill Coleman and Representative Luttrell, are really pro public education, and they stay in contact with me regularly. Give me a heads up about bills. I might send them a Facebook message about my thoughts on a bill. So they have been a delight to work with.
Good. The consent agenda and financial reports. This is a standard part of the Board of Education meeting.
Standard. We have many contracts every month, and on the contracts that are on the consent agenda are contracts that are less than $10,000. So there was not anything specifically that needed to be highlighted. But the next thing on your list are contracts over $10,000. So I will highlight just a few of those. We had our municipal accounting software reapproved, and what this does, this is our financial accounting, our activity fund accounting, our personnel accounting, our purchase requisition accounting, and it is something that we have to operate, and we have to renew every year, $17,000. We did approve a pretty large contract with Pinnacle Business Systems. It's for our VMware that actually makes our 65 servers that we have in the district virtual, keeps us up and running with our servers, and it was $13,000. We have 2 HR software programs that we approved. One is the Teacher and Principal Insight, and this is just a tool that is required when a teacher applies with us that tells them, or a principal for that matter, tells us their strengths as far as academic achievement, student-parent relations, their classroom structure, and it tells us basically how coachable they are and, you know, what their areas of strengths are and some areas that we could work with them on as well.
Wonderful.
And then the other HR piece of software was Frontline Education. It's our absent and substitute management software. Our time and attendance, which is our time clock software, and then our application software. And both of those were $16K and $31,000 respectively. Then we had to rebid a few items for the Washington pre-K remodel. So the board accepted those bids. They were minimal. The board also took action on the guaranteed maximum price for the Washington remodel, and I'll remind you what the Washington remodel is. It's the secure entrance, bullet resistant glass where patrons have to swipe in using their driver's license, and we're creating some office space. Right now, currently, Washington is our only facility that does not have the secure entrance. So by the fall of 19, all of our buildings will have that vestibule, the secure entry vestibule.
Wonderful.
So it's
Wonderful.
exciting. And then also, we've talked about this before, the north fence at the Sullins Stadium. You know, we had the huge remodel with the press box, the
Yes.
fencing, the ticket booth,
Beautiful.
the new football locker room. Well,
Yeah.
if you notice on that north side behind the visitor stands, we still have the old chain link.
Yeah, it doesn't match.
It doesn't
really.
look finished.
Yeah, yeah.
So that will be finished before football season next year, and that will be a showplace. I'm so happy that our kids have the opportunity to participate in school and extracurricular activities in the facilities that we have. And that's thanks to our patrons for approving those bond elections.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Teacher Appreciation Week. It is a big deal. How is it a big deal for Ponca City Public Schools?
Well, our board took action to recognize May 6th through 10th as Teacher Appreciation Week. And I've probably told you this before, without a shadow of a doubt, the teacher makes the greatest impact on student achievement. Yeah. And Sean, your daughter's a teacher.
Yes,
you know what our teachers do. They are sometimes the dentist, the doctor, the parent, the
so
mentor, you name
yeah.
it. And our teachers love our kids. They are not in this for the money or to be off in the summer, because actually we hear that a lot. We are off all summer. They're never off. They're preparing for the next school year. They deserve to be recognized, and we want to honor our teachers and always show them as much support as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Then the Board of Education meeting for April went into executive session. Probably not a lot you can talk about as far as that goes, but did it last long? I know you've had some that were pretty extended.
We have an executive session every month typically, and there are only certain items that we can discuss in executive session, and those are all listed on the executive session notes of the board agenda, so anyone can come in and look at that. But typically we discuss personnel, because we can discuss personnel in executive session. And this month is standard procedure that we rehire our principals.
Okay.
Last month, you may remember, it was our directors. This month would be our principals, and that would be our lead principals and our assistant principals. And they were all rehired with the exception of one, and it's not because we did not want to rehire. Dr. Trina Ressler at Union is moving to Hawaii to take an educational position. And in fact, her last day is this Friday.
Wow.
So, is that the 12th? Yes, I believe it is.
Yeah, it is.
So, whenever anybody leaves the district, of course, it has a void for us. So, what we're going to do is we are going to move Dawn Mills from Lincoln over just for the interim. Okay. So she is a seasoned principal. She understands how the operations work. She's got a lot of familiarity with special ed, and we have several district special ed classes at Union. So she will be taking over starting Monday through the end of the year. She will go back to Lincoln in the fall. This is truly an interim position, and we are actually interviewing for that position. We've got some great candidates inside and outside coming tomorrow for interviews. So we will likely name a principal before school is out.
Oh, very good.
So
Principal Ressler. Well, she'll be missed.
She will, and she's going to a lovely tropical
Hawaii.
Island.
That sounds amazing.
Yes, it does sound amazing, doesn't it?
Very good. Well, good for her. Calendar changes for 2018-19. Is that
my goodness.
this year, or did we mean 2019-2020?
No, I meant this year.
Okay.
It's 18-19. Okay, it is a revised calendar. Now it's a revised calendar.
Sure.
And this is a big item. As you know, in our calendar, we build in 2 snow days.
Yes.
And if we take those snow days, we have to make them up on the designated days. But as we spoke earlier, we are a district that can go by hours, 1,080 hours. Now,
Yes.
here's the thing. We will have met the 1,080 hours without having to go on the 2 snow days.
Oh, okay.
Now, snow day number 1 was to be May 20th.
Mm-hmm.
Graduation is May 17th, the Friday before, and I recommended to the board that we do not bring back seniors after graduation.
Right,
So we've
right.
got the hours, we won't be penalized, we'll meet our accreditation.
Good.
And then one of the topics for discussion was the second snow day, which is April 19th, which is Good Friday.
Right.
We do have some extracurricular events going on that day, but we talked about not making up that day, but we didn't want our support employees to lose compensation
Right.
for not coming that day.
Right.
So we could have done a couple of things. We could have brought them in. Teachers wouldn't have been there. Why bring in bus drivers and CMP people, child nutrition people, if there's
Right.
no students to feed or transport? TAs, there's no students to serve. Something we could have done was extended their day through the rest of the year. The board said, so why bring them in? Well, we don't want them to lose compensation.
Right.
So they have declared that day a paid holiday.
That's wonderful.
So the district will be closed for all of us. They said, do you work on Good Friday? I said, I work every day.
Right,
District
right.
is going to be closed. So that was, I mean, our board is so supportive of our staff. It costs no money because it was already figured into the
Right,
budget,
right.
but what it will gain with morale
Sure.
will be
Yeah.
immense. So that is like unprecedented
Yeah.
that our board did.
Yeah, that is wonderful.
Took action
That's fantastic.
on that. So we are not making up the 2 snow days. All of our employees will be off on the 19th. Our teacher checkout day was May 21st. We'll just move that to the 20th since we're not making up.
Fantastic.
And we will get out a big press release within the next couple of days. And then we'll send reminders through the PCPS app. So if patrons haven't downloaded the app, you need to do so. And more patrons have downloaded that app. Boy, after a snow day, the number increases
Oh,
on
yeah,
who
for
has
sure.
downloaded that app.
Yeah.
So
And it's an app that takes you through the entire district. And of course, you can also visit pcps.us, which is another fantastic
our website
resource.
or our Facebook page.
Yeah.
Anytime we put out a press release, it goes to our local media outlets,
Yeah.
Team Radio, Ponca City News, Twitter, Ponca City Now,
Right.
our Facebook page. You can't miss it when we put out a press
Right.
release.
It's everywhere. It is everywhere.
It is everywhere. So
All right.
one thing that I didn't mention, Dr. David Kincaid was sworn into office. We recently had a
Yes.
school board election, so we had his swearing in at this past board meeting too. So
Very good. All right. Well, that is going to do it for the April edition of the Board Wrap-Up Show. Our thanks to Superintendent Shelley Arrott, and thank you for watching, keeping you informed. The Board of Education meetings every month. It's the Board Wrap-Up Show right here for Ponca City Public Schools. I'm Sean Anderson. Thank you for watching. Until next time.